Hello everybody, Andrew Field here. Very sorry that a news video hasn't come out in a long time. I got a lot of news to cover and one really big story. So I'm going to try to get through as fast as possible. Let's get into it. So Congress and the White House reached a bipartisan deal to give a 12-week parental leave to 2.1 million federal workers. Trump refused to take part in the baseless House impeachment inquiry, and the president could have sent counsel to represent him at the hearings, but he didn't. He was preparing for the Senate trial. The House announced two charges of impeachment against the president: obstruction of justice and abuse of power. Two national polls said a slight majority of Americans oppose impeaching the president. I think it's just, because it's taken a little bit. Republicans don't care how history will remember them. Lindsey Graham is not trying to be a fair judge for the trial, and Mitch McConnell, the douchebag, and leader of the Senate, he's supposed to be impartial by law, but he was coordinating with the White House on how to handle the impeachment trial. Republican Matt Gaetz tried to mark Hunter Biden's son, as a target, and brought up that he did cocaine, was arrested for a DUI in 2008, driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Democrat Hank Johnson toasted Gaetz for saying that he previously had DUI, so he shouldn't be talking. Adam Schiff tried to get Republicans on board and inform the public the best they could. Um, Trump and the House want witnesses for the impeachment trial. The Senate does not want witnesses. Graham says he rejects having witnesses. The Republicans are trying to rig the trial. Before the House voted, Trump wrote a 6-page letter of anger to the Democrats before impeachment vote, and he said the Salem witch trials were more fair. He became the third president to be impeached in the House. It was based on party lines. Uh, Barry Loudermilk from Georgia compared the impeachment to Jesus and said Jesus had more rights than Trump. No. Speaker Pelosi has withheld the articles of impeachment. Said the trial needs to be fair first. It was a good move by her. Right after Trump held a 2-hour rally after the impeachment vote, and Trump went after widow Debbie Dingell, who was sitting in the place of her husband, who was the longest serving congressman, and she was like, I guess she was supporting the impeachment, and he said that um, John Dingell was looking up from hell. He implied that. And that's a horrible thing to say to anyone, let alone the longest serving congressman. It's just disgusting. The top evangelical Christian magazine, Christianity Today, called for Trump's impeachment, excuse me. Uh, Said Trump was a deeply immoral person, and Gelly, the writer, is retiring, so they went too far to try to accommodate Trump supporters. Pelosi invited Trump to deliver the State of Union 2 days after he was impeached, and Trump signed a $1.4 trillion bill to avoid the government shutting down, and he raised the minimum age for buying tobacco to 21. Two active shooters happened in 1 week at military bases. First was a sailor that was shot two civilian defense department workers before killing himself at, of course, out of all places, Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard. 2 days later, a Saudi national who was in the U.S. for Navy training left 3 dead and 8 injured at a naval air station, Pensacola, in Florida. There was also a Jersey City shooting where two shooters killed 4 people, including an officer, 3 civilians. The 2 suspects were killed as well. Shooting suspect published anti-Semitic and anti-police posts. The Houston police chief criticized McConnell and Republicans for the lack of action on gun violence. Good for him. 3 separate plane crashes happened in Louisiana, New York, and North Carolina. It caused in total 5 deaths and 8 injuries. Small planes accidentally. It was small planes. They were all around Christmas time. Around Christmas time, someone attacked a Jewish family in New York, stabbing them, and it injured 5 people. Hillary Clinton commented on it and called for empathy. I don't think Trump even mentioned it. Documents came out that showed the U.S. leaders misled the public on the progress of the Afghanistan war. An order issued by Ruth Bader Ginsburg told the Supreme Court granted Trump some emergency requests to shield his tax returns. I don't know why the hell she did that, but so he's protected right now from the Democrats looking at his tax returns because he's a fraud. The Supreme Court is not allowing the Justice Department to resume federal executions, denying government's request to bypass the lower court ruling that the department likely exceeded its powers by adopting a new lethal injection protocol. El Paso judge blocked Trump's plan to fund the wall with military funds. Trump lashed out at FBI director in the wake of Justice Department Inspector General's report, rebutting conservative claims on a bias on the FBI trying to harm the president's chances of winning in 2016 and of Obama wiretapping him. Pentagon Inspector General probe use of military personnel along the southern border. The Justice Department watchdog investigating possible FBI leaks to Giuliani in 2016. I'm sorry, I have a lot on here. Bernie Sanders overtook Elizabeth Warren as the top candidate among college voters, which is not too surprising. I knew he always had a lot of college voter support. A reporter said that in the 1990s, Bloomberg made sexist comments. Gabbard did not, and listen to this, Gabbard did not vote on the articles of impeachment. So instead of saying yes, he should be impeached, or no, he should not, she just said present. The only one to say that. So I've said this probably before, but Tulsi Gabbard is a complete buffoon. Representative Van Drew switched from a Democrat to the GOP. Good timing. See you later. Most of it, Van Drew's staff quit. Buttigieg got slammed for having dinner with a billionaire. Bernie's campaign trolled Mayor Pete by buying the website Pete'sWineCave.com. Andrew Yang said that he wanted to make psychedelic mushrooms more freely available, and Julian Castro ended his presidential campaign bid. The Democrats had another debate. Buttigieg. The candidates were Biden, Buttigieg, Klobuchar, Sanders, Tom Steyer, Elizabeth Warren, Yang. Those are the 7. It was in LA by PBS Politico. It was not good to, it was very good to see stupid Gabbard not on the stage, which means their chances of winning, they were at 1%, now they're at 0. There was some sparring between the candidates, and I liked all the candidates on the stage. I think they were all qualified. The one thing I didn't like, though, was that there was no talk about the U.S. debt, which is a big problem, considering how much of debt we have. TikTok chief canceled Capitol Hill meetings, reigniting criticism on Capitol Hill from those who say the Chinese-owned firm is avoiding accountability. There was a big Uber report that revealed that over 3,000 cases of sexual assault. Speaker Pelosi defended herself from a reporter asking her if she hates the president. She said she doesn't hate anyone, and she calls him a coward. She says she's just doing her job. A couple weeks ago, Russia's military opened fire and seized 2 Ukrainian vessels in the Black Sea. Ukraine's government said 2 crew members were wounded. The Russian Coast Guard vessel rammed into a different Ukrainian tugboat. Russia blamed Ukraine, like they always do. But Putin and Zelensky, the 2 leaders of Russia and Ukraine, sat down to talk. They revived the peace talks to de-escalate the tensions. They agreed to exchange all prisoners. This was in Paris with Macron and Merkel mediating the talks, and the U.S. wasn't there. Sadly, the Russia deployed its first hypersonic nuclear-capable missiles. I don't think the U.S. has those. Excuse me. So, the big story is Iran. This is the first. This is just a different part. The U.S. hit Iran with new sanctions on an Iranian shipping network that smuggles aid to Yemen. 3 agents of an Iranian airline company. This was big news. that Russia, China, and Iran held joint naval drills on the in the Gulf of Oman. An Iranian mine damaged a Japanese ship. A massive explosion in Somalia's capital killed at least 78. The blast caused by a vehicle packed with bombs. There was a deadly New Zealand volcano eruption that killed 15. Two people were missing. It was an unpredictable volcano. Boris Johnson won re-election in the UK. Iranian president says U.S. sanctions cost the country 200 billion. And suck to suck, Iran. Because the U.S. uses sanctions instead of the Iran nuclear deal. And I'll get into this more probably later with the big story, but the reason why we might be going to war with Iran, you could say, was because of Trump, because we got out of the Iran nuclear deal, because Obama made a deal where we were giving them money to make sure that they weren't building nuclear weapons, and both sides agreed with it, and it was kind of peaceful. But ever since that, and Trump's been sanctioning them, and they've been losing money instead of gaining the money that they had, it's caused his tensions to rise. So we didn't have big problems with Iran before, but now we do, and it is Trump's fault for a good part of that. In 12 months, and it's funny because the people that were complaining about it before, like Obama's Iran nuclear deal, they were like, why are we giving Iran money? It's so stupid. And now we're going to be probably going to war and spending billions of dollars. Should have shut your mouths earlier, but good job, people. Um, in 12 months, protests triggered from a worsening economic crisis in Sudan, starting in the town of at Bara helped to a military overthrow of President Omar al-Bashir. After more lives were lost and the people had talks with the military rulers, the Sudanese people got them to agree to a power-sharing deal to steal the country to civilian rule. India was having problems lately. They are facing deadly protests over a citizenship law that is making people scared that the world's biggest democracy is being eroded. Excuse me. Critics call the law unconstitutional and anti-Muslim. India's Supreme Court was supposed to rule on this pretty soon. The law allows illegal immigrants from Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh to become citizens unless they are Muslim. 8 people have died and hundreds were injured. Several hundred were detained. Photos showed. Oh, this is the main story right here. Photos showed widespread fire of the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, Iraq, after militants of an Iranian-backed militia attacked the compound. U.S. sent 750 troops to protect the U.S. Embassy. The militia ordered them to withdraw, relieving the diplomats inside, and a showdown between the U.S. and Iran, or so they thought. The militia was the Kataib Hezbollah militia, and they said they would press for U.S. troops to withdraw from Iraq in the nation's parliament. Thousands attempted to storm the embassy, protesting the deaths of 25 militia members in U.S. airstrikes earlier in the week. And I think those airstrikes were because Iran killed a U.S. citizen along with wounding others. Trump says that he doesn't want war with Iran. Iran denied any involvement in the militia, which is bullshit, because they always say that every time something happens where it's related to Iran, they always say they have no involvement. They try to have the best image worldwide, and that seems to be fading, so I knew that was bullcrap all along. Iran's leader, Khamenei, I probably didn't say that right, but who cares, said the U.S. couldn't do anything, like always. And this is the main reason why I wouldn't mind as much if we went to war with Iran. I'm sick and tired of smaller countries with very little power. Iran, North Korea, threatening the U.S. North Korea has been threatening the U.S. for, 60 years? Now 70. And Iran's been threatening us for a while now. I'm just sick and tired of these small little countries threatening us just because they think that we wouldn't get involved or do something. And so, from that, among many reasons, is why this war may not be the worst thing, even though war is never a first choice. He said we couldn't do anything, and then right after that, he opened his big mouth. A top Iran commander was killed by a U.S. airstrike in Baghdad, Iraq, in an airport. The Pentagon said the airstrike killed this guy Qasem Soleimani in Iraq was an effort to deter future Iranian attacks. The strike was at the direction of the President Trump. Trump did a good job planning it out with his aides. Pelosi, but he did not do a good job with Congress, who was supposed to watch over declaring war and that kind of decision. Excuse me. Pelosi demanded briefing on the U.S. airstrike. The U.S. airstrike. Where Senator Graham was informed beforehand. The price of oil spiked after the airstrike. All U.S. citizens in Iraq urged to leave after the airstrike. Iran vowed revenge against the U.S. And I saw an article saying that it could include cyber warfare. The U.S. decided to deploy 3,500 more troops to the Middle East in Kuwait after Iran's top commander killing. Trump delivered a statement, said the killing of the Iranian general was done to stop a war, future attacks on Americans. Trump warns Iran not to retaliate. So listen, I think America is very divided on this. A lot of people, I wish I could put pictures in this video, but I took them anyway. On Twitter, yesterday, this happened yesterday, the majority of it, and the top thing was World War III. And, that's scary. And right after that, right before I made this video, I looked, and on top of the trending, it was World War III three times in different like fonts or lettering. Um, Trump's War and Dog of War 2020. So it doesn't seem like a lot of people want this war. And I know, like I said, war is not always the best choice. But given the situation where Trump has not pushed for war, and and he's always said that he did not want war with Iran. I think that, I'm sorry, my voice has been going out. I think that if Congress agrees and we're able to plan this out and make this very short term, that it would be a good thing to do. Yeah. Anyways, in other news, the Australian military had to move in to rescue tens of thousands of people living on Australia's east coast to avoid advancing bushfires. I know Australia's had a big problem with that ever since the summer, I think. So, going back to that though, I wanted to say, the joint naval drills with Iran, China, and Russia was really scary. One thing that Trump has done a really bad job of his presidency is treating our allies, treating dictators better than our allies, at least in Western Europe. That could prove a problem if we do end up going to war. And it is sad, but hopefully at least our allies in the Middle East will help to take Iran down. I would say if I were Trump, it's like he televised his response, and I would have said, Russia, China, don't get involved. This is our fight with Iran. They provoked this. This is their fault. They need to learn the consequences, and they need to be decimated for it. If you get involved, you'll be destroyed too. I'd recommend that you didn't. If you don't, then we'll share the oil that's left after we blow up Iran. Easy peasy. Except it won't be. But props to Hong Kong for the work of democracy over the past year to fight China's brutality. North Korea said if the U.S. didn't restart sanction talks, it would deliver a Christmas gift. Never happened. The U.S. officials say North Korea could launch short-range missile tests or rocket engine tests at any time. Didn't do that. A long-range missile test expected in early 2020, so that could still happen. Satellite photos show work on site linked to long-range missiles, so there you go. Trump says the U.S. would deal with the North Korean Christmas gift. A U.S. base 10 miles away from North Korean border accidentally sounded the sirens of war. The operator thankfully fixed his mistake in time. Trump Jr. went to Mongolia and then killed an endangered sheep. A former Republican lawmaker told the GOP to consider all evidence on impeachment. former Republican lawmakers, multiple. A poll found 53% of Republicans thought Trump was better than Abraham Lincoln. I hope it's a joke. New polls find the support for impeachment has dropped off a bit, if not stayed the same, and Trump's approval rating before the Iran thing went up from 39% to 45%. Trump faced criticism after a tweet naming the alleged whistleblower. Trump raised more money than his Democratic opponents in the last quarter of 2019. Um, yeah. Hallmark got a lot of criticism removing ads from Zola featuring two women getting married and kissing after a conservative group complained about it. Now Hallmark is working to get the ads back. The United Methodist Church proposed a historic split into two denominations to end debate on gay marriage. Two Chicago gang members sentenced to 155 years in jail for the execution-style killing of a 9-year-old. It was the son of a rival gang member. Guilty by two separate juries. Sky Boone Dottie received 90 years in jail, being the gunman. Morgan got 65 for hatching the plan to kill the fourth grader. And Illinois raised $3.2 million on the first day of legalizing weed. Paul Manafort was hospitalized for a cardiac event. The former Trump campaign official, Rick Gates, key witness to Mueller investigation, sentenced 45 days in jail. 400 pro-impeachment rallies happened before the House voted on impeachment. The White House Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney, expected to leave after the Senate trial. Star Wars deleted the same-sex kiss for Singapore for Rise of Skywalker. A runner accused of groping a female reporter on live TV was arrested and released on bail. The reporter is pressing charges. 49% of millennials bought stock in 2019. Half are missing out on a record year for the stock market. The President of the United States retweeted a meme that said Jesus liked Trump more than Obama. I mean, what? Rapper Juice WRLD died after suffering a seizure at age 21. Former NBA Commissioner David Stern dies at 77 from a brain hemorrhage. Greta Thunberg received Time Person of the Year over Trump and everyone else, and I think she deserved it way more than anyone else. Thank you, Greta, for your work. And you'll be known as one of the greats, I'm sure. It was the youngest person ever at age 16. That's all I have for you guys. I'll try to keep you posted closer, especially with the situation with Iran, which is becoming more serious each day. Iran has vowed to retaliate, and we don't know exactly what that looks like, but we will find out soon enough. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys had a happy new year, and peace.